Hello guys, welcome to today's video. So today we are going to see something related to SQL Server. So today we are going to see some option in SQL Server called read committed snapshot. So you might have already used this particular option before, or you might be new to this particular option. You might be already aware of in SQL Server there are isolation level, or especially called the transaction isolation levels. So basically we have four transaction isolation levels in SQL Server. One is read uncommitted, and we have read committed, and we have repeatable reads, and then we have serializable isolation level. So these are basic isolation level that you can find online if you want to know much more details about them. And based on this particular one of this isolation level we are going to discuss in bit detail. So that isolation level is read committed. So when you use your database in read committed fashion, and by default SQL supports this read committed as a default option, and when you are in a transaction, what happens is when you do a parallel transaction, especially the read operation, when you try it out, the read operation hangs and it will not return any value, or it will wait for the previous transaction to complete or to get committed into the database. So let's try it in practice. So first what we do is we first use this database which is already there, and I try to alter the database option, and I try to enable this read committed snapshot as on. The point to note here is this read committed snapshot is not an isolation level, it is just an option, additional option over this read committed isolation level, which enables you to support much more concurrency in your application. So when I turn on this read committed snapshot, let's try to run this particular two piece of command, and yeah, this query executes successfully. And let's try to begin our transaction, and let's try to insert 460 record. Let's try to insert this record into our database, and that is done. And let's try to update one of the record in our table. So this is also successfully done. I am doing a parallel transaction here. Let's try to query all the records in our table. So when I try to query, as you can see that we have done a couple of transactions. That insert transaction we did an update transaction. Those two changes are not reflected here when I do a parallel transaction. But if I run this particular same transaction inside this transaction, inside the parent transaction of the first transaction, we will be able to see the updated value. Let's try to run it. As you can see, the new record is inserted, and this particular 123 is already updated, and this particular data set was already updated. Let's try to change it to 3 for the subsequent runs, and you can see that within the transaction this gets updated. 460 record is seen, but when I try to run it from here, run this particular query from here, I am not able to see that record. So this particular read query returns you the dirty state, or for example it is not returning us the latest updates which happened in that particular table. So this is with the read committed snapshot on. And let's try to do a commit once here and try to see what happens in that parallel query, and let's try to run this particular query once again. So now you can see that this particular select query returns you the updated record once the previous transaction commit is successful. So let's try to turn things around. Let's try to off this particular read committed snapshot option, and let's try to see what happens here. So we have executed that particular query, and let's try to begin our transaction. So let's try to change things a bit. Let's try to insert 470, and let's try to name my express just for change, and let's try to name this particular thing as 5 to see if that particular change happens or not. Let's try to run this particular insert statement once. Yeah, insert is done. And let's try, what we can try to do is we will try to run this select query parallelly. Remember, the transaction is still in progress, the previous transaction is still in progress, and we are running a parallel query. As you can see, the query is executing and it is not returning you the value, or it is in a log state because the previous transaction has acquired a read log on that particular database table, and this particular query is hanging because of that. And this is with the read computer snapshot off. So that's what happens once you uh, once you switch this particular option on and off. What you can do is we can actually try to see. I have stopped that particular query up, and let's try to run this to query once again. And here we'll be able to see the updated records in this particular transaction. But if I run the same transaction here, it will hang. It will not give you the updated result, or it will not give you any result at all because of the locking which is happening because of the previous transaction. So let's try to cancel this transaction again, and let's try to go back and let's try to commit this particular transaction up. So we have committed this transaction, and what we'll do here is we will try to run this select query again. Now you can see that you are receiving the updated records and updated values here, the select query. So this when to use this particular option, that purely depends upon your use case or your application need. So if you want to return, if you're not too concerned about the data that you are reading or the sanity of the data that you are reading, then it's always preferable to use this read computer snapshot uh, with on state. And if you are too concerned with the data that you are reading and you always want to get the updated record at every point in time when you do read, then it's always better not to go for this read computer snapshot. So that's what I wanted to cover in this particular video. If you found this video helpful, please do subscribe to my channel and do share this video with your friends and colleagues. And thank you. And do leave your thoughts in the comment section. If you have any questions or if you know much about this read computer snapshot, please do leave a comment below. Thank you.